Forget fasting. Forget starving yourself. Forget the endless cycle of feeling hungry, miserable, and stuck. You have been sold a lie that the only way to lose fat and fix your health is to stop eating, but the real enemy isn't the number of calories on your plate. It is a silent biological problem called insulin resistance, a condition that locks your fat cells and throws away the key, making weight loss mathematically impossible no matter how little you eat. If you have ever felt tired after meals, struggled with belly fat that won't budge, or felt an uncontrollable urge to snack at night, your insulin is hijacking your brain and your belly. But here is the shocking news. New cutting-edge science has revealed that you can reverse this condition and torch fat, not by eating less, but by changing how you eat. We are talking about biological hacks so powerful they can lower your blood sugar response by over 30% without you changing a single food item on your plate. In this video, we are going to break down the exact 5-step protocol to reset your metabolism, ranked from the easiest quick fix to the absolute most critical lifestyle change that researchers are calling the metabolic anchor. You need to watch until the very end because the number one step is a game changer that completely contradicts everything you have been told about breakfast and will essentially turn your body into a fat-burning machine for the rest of the day. Before we begin, share with us in the comments now your age and where you're watching us from. We read and reply to every single comment. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. Number 5. The acid hack, acetic acid protocol. We are starting our journey with something you likely already have sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now, yet you are completely underestimating its power to alter your biochemistry. This is not about some expensive supplement. It is about plain, simple vinegar, specifically apple cider vinegar, and the science behind it is nothing short of incredible. The magic ingredient here is acetic acid, a compound that essentially acts as a traffic controller for your metabolism. When you consume carbohydrates, like bread, pasta, or potatoes, your body breaks them down into simple sugars using an enzyme called alpha amylase. This sugar then rushes into your bloodstream, causing the insulin spike we are trying to avoid. However, studies have shown that acetic acid temporarily disables alpha amylase. Think of it like putting a temporary speed bump in your digestive tract. Because the enzyme is slowed down, the carbohydrates you eat are broken down much more slowly, meaning the sugar enters your bloodstream at a trickle rather than a flood. The data on this is striking. A meta-analysis of clinical trials found that consuming vinegar before a meal can reduce the glucose spike of that meal by a massive margin. One specific study showed that just 2 tablespoons of vinegar before a high-carbohydrate meal improved insulin sensitivity by 19% to 34%. That is a third of the insulin response simply gone just by drinking a liquid. Another study published in the journal Diabetes Care found that taking vinegar at bedtime actually reduced waking blood sugar levels the next morning by 4%, and for those with the highest starting levels, it dropped by 6%. This proves that the acetic acid is working on your liver's overnight glucose production, not just digestion. To get these benefits, you cannot just sprinkle a few drops on a salad. You need a specific protocol. The golden rule is dilution. You must take 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and mix it into a tall glass of water. Do not drink it straight, as the acid can damage your tooth enamel and irritate your throat. You want to drink this mixture roughly 10 to 20 minutes before your biggest meal of the day, usually dinner or lunch. If the taste is too intense for you, you can use a straw to bypass your tongue or add a squeeze of lemon to cut the sharpness. Some people try the gummy versions, but be very careful because many of those are packed with added sugar, which completely defeats the purpose of the protocol. You want the raw, unfiltered vinegar, often labeled as containing the mother, which is that cloudy sediment at the bottom full of probiotics and enzymes. This is the easiest entry point to the protocol because it requires zero willpower. It is just a simple drink that chemically alters how your body processes the food you are about to eat. Now that we have blunted the spike chemically, we need to look at how to use your body's own mechanics to burn that sugar off immediately. Before we continue, if you have been enjoying the video so far, hit that like button so more seniors can see it, and subscribe. We've got more powerful senior health tips videos coming every day, and you don't want to miss the next one. Number 4. The kinetic cure, postprandial movement, The fourth most important step is to utilize your muscles as a glucose sink, and this step is often called the 10-minute rule. Most people finish a meal and immediately sit down on the couch at their desk or in the car. This is the worst possible thing you can do for your insulin. When you sit, your muscles are dormant, and the glucose from your meal has nowhere to go but into your bloodstream, forcing your pancreas to screen for insulin to shove that energy into your fat cells. However, your muscles have a superpower that few people know about. They have a backdoor for glucose absorption called the GLUT4 transporter. Normally, insulin is the key that opens the door for sugar to enter your cells. But when you contract your muscles, they can open this door without insulin. This is a massive discovery because it means you can lower your blood sugar and bypass insulin resistance entirely just by moving. This concept was proven in a fantastic study from New Zealand, where researchers found that a short 10-minute walk after each meal was significantly more effective at lowering blood sugar than a single 30-minute walk done at a random time of day. The timing is everything. You want to move when the glucose is hitting your bloodstream, which is typically 30 to 60 minutes after you eat. Another study confirmed that even just standing up and moving lightly for 2 to 5 minutes every half hour can attenuate glucose spikes. But for the maximum fat-burning effect, we are looking at the postprandial stroll. Here is exactly how to do it. Within 30 minutes of finishing your lunch and dinner, you must get moving. This does not mean a high-intensity workout. In fact, high-intensity exercise right after eating can sometimes cause digestive distress or even a stress hormone spike. We want low-level, steady movement. A brisk 10-minute walk is the gold standard. If you are at work and cannot go outside, you can climb a few flights of stairs or even do air squats at your desk. The goal is simply to contract the large muscles in your legs, your quads, hamstrings, and glutes. These are the biggest glucose-hungry tissues in your body. By contracting them, you are mechanically sucking sugar out of your blood before it has a chance to trigger a massive insulin release. This keeps your energy stable and prevents that dreaded food coma fatigue that makes you want to nap after lunch. You are essentially paying for your meal with movement. If you make this a non-negotiable habit, eating then walking, you will see a dramatic drop in your average daily blood glucose. And since insulin is the fat storage hormone, lower insulin means your body is finally allowed to unlock its fat stores for energy. We have covered the chemical and the mechanical, but now we need to talk about the architecture of the meal itself, because the order in which you eat your food matters more than you think. Number 3. The sequencing strategy, food order. Number 3 is perhaps the most surprising hack because it requires you to eat the exact same foods you are eating now, but simply change the order in which you put them into your mouth. This is known as meal sequencing, and it exploits the anatomy of your stomach and the speed of digestion. Most people eat their meals by mixing everything together, or worse, starting with the bread basket or the French fries. When you eat simple carbohydrates first on an empty stomach, there is nothing to slow them down. They shoot through your stomach, into your small intestine, and rocket your blood sugar sky high. This creates a massive insulin spike, followed by a massive crash, which leaves you hungry again 2 hours later. This is the roller coaster of insulin resistance. However, a landmark study from Weill Cornell Medicine proved that you can flatten this glucose curve by changing the sequence. In the study, participants were given the exact same meal on 2 different days: chicken, vegetables, and bread/juice. On the first day, they ate the bread and juice first. On the second day, they ate the vegetables and protein first, and the bread and juice last. The result was shocking. Eating the vegetables and protein first reduced the blood sugar spike by over 37% and reduced the insulin secretion significantly. That is a medication-level effect just by eating your broccoli first. The mechanism here is fiber and protein. When you eat fibrous vegetables first, like spinach, asparagus, or a salad, that fiber travels to the bottom of your stomach and into the upper intestine, where it creates a viscous mesh. It literally forms a physical barrier. When you then eat the protein, it further slows down gastric emptying. By the time you finally eat the carbohydrates, the rice, the pasta, or the potato, they land on top of this slow-moving fiber-protein foundation. The carbohydrates are then absorbed through that fiber mesh much more slowly, resulting in a gentle rolling hill of blood sugar rather than a jagged mountain spike. To execute this perfectly, you need to visualize your plate as a three-step course. Step 1 is the fiber per load. You must start your meal with the non-starchy vegetables. Eat the salad, the green beans, or the roasted peppers before you touch anything else. Chew them well. Step 2 is the protein and healthy fats. Eat your steak, chicken, fish, or tofu next. This triggers satiety hormones like PYY that tell your brain you are getting full. Step 3, the final step, is the starch or sugar. By the time you get to the rice or the bread, two things will happen. First, you will likely be more full and naturally want to eat less of it. And second, the starch you do eat will be digested at a snail's pace. This strategy transforms a potentially damaging cheat meal into a metabolically manageable event. It is the ultimate social hack because you can do it at any restaurant without drawing attention to yourself. Just eat the side salad first. Now we are moving into the deep biology. This next step is the one people ignore because they think they can hustle through it, but science shows you cannot cheat your own hormones. Number 2, the restoration protocol, sleep and circadian rhythm. Step number 2 is fixing your sleep, and before you roll your eyes, you need to understand the terrifying numbers behind sleep deprivation and insulin resistance. You might be doing everything right with your diet, eating keto, low carb, sequencing your meals, but if you are sleeping 5 or 6 hours a night, you are physiologically fighting a losing battle. Sleep is not just rest. It is a hormonal reset. When you are sleep deprived, your body enters a state of perceived emergency. Your adrenal glands pump out cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol's main job in emergency is to flood your bloodstream with glucose so you can fight or run, and to do this, it actively inhibits insulin. It tells your cells to ignore insulin so that the glucose stays in the blood for the brain and muscles. This means sleep deprivation causes temporary, acute insulin resistance. A study from the University of Chicago is absolutely frightening in this regard. Researchers took healthy young men and restricted their sleep to 4 hours for just one single night. The next day, their insulin sensitivity had dropped by nearly 25%. One bad night of sleep essentially turned healthy metabolisms into pre-diabetic ones. Furthermore, the study showed that their levels of circulating fatty acids increased by up to 30%, specifically during the overnight hours when they should have been low. This creates a state called metabolic inflexibility, where your body forgets how to burn fat and only craves sugar. Another study showed that tired brains have less activity in the frontal cortex, the logic center, and more activity in the amygdala, the emotional/reward center, making you crave high-calorie, sugary junk food. You are biologically programmed to overeat when you are tired. The protocol to fix this is not just sleep more, because that is vague. You need to optimize your circadian rhythm. This starts the moment you wake up. You must view morning sunlight within 30 minutes of waking. This sunlight hits the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain, setting a timer that dictates when melatonin, the sleep hormone, will be released 12 to 14 hours later. If you miss the morning light, your sleep clock drifts. Secondly, you need a caffeine curfew. Caffeine has a quarter life that can last up to 12 hours. If you drink coffee at 2 o'clock p.m., a quarter of that caffeine is still buzzing in your brain at 2 o'clock a.m., preventing deep, restorative REM sleep. Cut off caffeine by noon. Lastly, you need to cool down your environment. Your body core temperature needs to drop by about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. Keep your bedroom between 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. If you cannot control the AC, take a hot shower before bed. The rapid cooling effect when you step out of the shower mimics the body's natural sleep signal. By prioritizing sleep, you are lowering your baseline cortisol, which automatically improves your insulin sensitivity and allows your body to access fat stores overnight. And now we arrive at the number 1 most critical step. This is the foundation upon which all other steps rest. If you get this wrong, the other 4 steps will barely matter. Number 1, the metabolic anchor, high-protein breakfast. The number one most important thing you must do to reverse insulin resistance and lose fat fast is to anchor your day with a high-protein breakfast. This contradicts the popular skip breakfast advice that many people associate with fasting, but for reversing insulin resistance and controlling appetite, the data on protein at the start of the day is undeniable. Most people start their day with a carbohydrate disaster: cereal, toast, oatmeal, fruit juice, or a sugary coffee. This spikes your blood sugar immediately after you wake up, causing a massive release of insulin. Because insulin clears the sugar quickly, you crash 2 hours later, leading to reactive hypoglycemia. This crash triggers intense cravings for more sugar, setting off a roller coaster of spikes and crashes that lasts until you go to sleep. You become a slave to your fluctuating glucose levels. The metabolic anchor strategy is about breaking this cycle before it starts. When you consume a high dose of protein first thing in the morning, specifically 30 to 50 grams, you trigger a completely different hormonal cascade. Protein takes a long time to digest and has a high thermic effect, meaning your body burns more calories just processing it compared to carbs or fats. But the real magic is in the satiety hormones. Protein stimulates the release of PY and GLP-1, the very same hormones that modern weight loss drugs try to mimic. These hormones travel to your brain and shut down hunger signals. There is a fascinating MRI study that illustrates this perfectly. Researchers scanned the brains of teenagers who either skipped breakfast or ate a normal protein breakfast. They then showed them pictures of delicious, high-calorie foods. The brains of the breakfast skippers lit up like Christmas trees in the reward centers. They were biologically obsessed with food. However, the group that ate a high-protein breakfast showed significantly blunted brain activity in response to food cues. They literally didn't care as much about the junk food. Another study found that a high-protein breakfast reduced ghrelin, the hunger hormone, far more effectively than a high-carb breakfast and kept it suppressed for hours. This is the second meal effect. What you eat at 8 o'clock a.m. determines what you crave at 8 o'clock p.m. By front-loading your protein, you stabilize your blood sugar for the entire day, making it effortless to say no to the donut at the office or the chips at night. Here is exactly how to execute the metabolic anchor. You need to aim for at least 30 grams of high-quality protein within an hour of waking up. This is non-negotiable. A single egg only has 6 grams of protein, so eating an egg is not enough. You need 5 eggs to hit 30 grams, which is hard for many people. Instead, you need to combine sources. A great protocol is 3 eggs, 18 grams protein, plus a side of Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, or perhaps a scoop of whey isolate protein powder mixed into water or almond milk. Alternatively, you can eat leftover chicken or steak from dinner. There is no rule that breakfast food has to be breakfast food. You must avoid consuming naked carbohydrates during this meal. No toast, no juice, no bananas. Save those for later in the day if you eat them at all. Your morning fuel must be protein and healthy fats. This resets your metabolic clock, keeps your insulin baseline low, and provides the amino acids your muscles need to repair and maintain themselves. Remember, muscle is your primary metabolic organ. If you undereat protein, you lose muscle, your metabolic rate drops, and your insulin resistance gets worse. By prioritizing protein first thing, you are protecting your muscle and forcing your body to burn body fat for fuel. At the end, if you implement these 5 steps, starting with the protein anchor, fixing your sleep, sequencing your food, walking after meals, and using the vinegar hack, you are attacking insulin resistance from every possible angle. You are not starving yourself. You are simply providing the right inputs for your biological machine to function as it was designed. You will find that the fat begins to melt off not because you are suffering, but because you have finally lowered the insulin barrier that was blocking it. Now I want you to be totally honest with me in the comments. Look back at exactly what you ate for breakfast this morning. Was it a carb disaster, like toast and cereal, or did you actually hit that 30-gram protein target? Out of the 5 steps we covered, which one are you committing to trying tomorrow? Share with us your experiences and opinions in the comments below. We love to hear them. Thanks for watching.